Okay, Art 1-2, this is your grid guy practice. So before we start, let's make a couple notes about what you're going to be graded on for this particular assignment. So I'm looking for how do things line up with the grid lines, like how far below, looking at how this eye and eyebrow like lines up with the grid line, how this eyebrow touches the grid line, how the bottom of the chin on the left-hand side goes slightly below, looking at like where the curvature happens according to grid lines. So we're gonna write alignment. You're gonna take these notes to grid is one thing that you'll be assessed on. Then we're looking at sizes of things, like noticing how his nostril comes like halfway over into this box and how like the ear almost touches the grid line or how much spacing is in between. How the mouth kind of spans, between two boxes and how the mouth lines up with the eyes, etc. So that all is proportion. Even though this guy is not in accurate proportion, we're looking at the proportion of this particular grid. All right, the last thing I'm looking for is line thickness. So noticing this is called calligraphic line, where it goes from thicker to thinner, looking at like thickness, because that is also going to help with proportion and how things align. So we're going to write line thickness or thinness, but that's good enough. So those are the three major things that we'll be looking for in assessing this practice. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to label the small grid, and then we'll label the big grid exactly the same. So we're going to go A, B, C, and D. We're going to do that. And let's do A, B, C, and D. Then we're going to go 1 through 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for this drawing, you only have to be concerned with 16 boxes. For your actual self-portrait, you have 80 boxes to keep track of. So you're definitely going to want to always have your original image labeled and your grid, and that's true for any kind of grid enlargement. All right, if you have your viewfinder, this is really helpful because it does fit right on top of the little grid guide box, and so it helps you with proportion. If you don't have this, you will be making one for your self-portrait here pretty soon, but what you can do if you do not have a viewfinder is to lightly divide your boxes into fourths. Let me go a little bit darker so you can see. So that is C1. So then C1, I would divide into fourths as well, super lightly. And you don't have to erase this to turn in the practice. It shows me that you are looking at alignment to the grid and proportion. So then I'm looking at how the head curves slightly above. It's like a little bit above halfway. So I'm giving myself some guidelines on how the head curves, noticing how the head curves all the way over and lines up between A and B and 1 and 2. And then I'm also looking at how there's nothing in D1, D2, or D3. You just have a little bit of the shirt in D4. So we're just going to check it off. Okay, those are done. We have nothing to do in those boxes. So I would start easy, and this is how you're going to start on your own self-portrait as well, with the contour outline of the head, and then I would put in neck and shoulders, and then I would move into ear, eyes, and then you can use the eyes to line up nose and mouth. So just a quick kind of review. So then I'm looking at where does the head end. So then I have like little guidelines or connecting the dots. I'm looking at how high up does that ear come, about halfway. I'm gonna do halfway marks for myself. And if you do have your viewfinder, then by all means, use your viewfinder. All right. So it kind of comes down and then curves. That cheek curve out and in. And then I have room for the ear. That comes pretty close to the grid line. I wouldn't do line thickness just yet because that might not be 100% accurate and I might have to change it. And then I would come down looking at, let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, there we go. Okay, looking at the bottom of the jaw. So the curvature, and then I would look at how it sinks in, curves out. We have the chin showing up in the corner. The little dimple in the chin is like halfway. Kind of curves along the grid line. Curves down slightly. I can see a little bit in this corner of B4. Okay, looking at jawline over here. So now I'm in B3. So you're always going to double check what box you're in. And I want to leave space for some of the ear showing through in that box. All right, then you would do I would do the rest of the head, the ear, the shirt. All right. Then when you get into eyes, so I would look at how I would put a little dot, like where's the corner of the eye compared to the box. And so facial features for sure I would divide into fourths. Facial feature boxes. Sorry. Okay, so now looking at the corner of the eye here, and then I'm going to look at where the corner of the eye is, and I'm kind of gauging this space as well. It's pretty much on the same line. I look at how this eye kind of dips down a little bit, and it ends between B and C. So that the inner corner is literally on that line. Okay. Then looking for C2, look at how this eye starts here, comes in a little bit past. How high up does it go? Like a little bit above halfway. And the bottom pretty much is on that line. So now you have a shape to fit, guidelines to fit the shape of the eye in. And I look at how the color part of the eye is right along that line. So then based on that, then you'll I would kind of fit in the nose, and I'd look at how much space takes up with the eyebrow, how the eyebrow touches pretty much here. So give yourself many guidelines to then draw the rest of the facial features. When you're done, then I would go back and actually fill in thickness of line, and that will kind of help you gauge. And you're also cleaning up your lines, and it will help you gauge some additional kind of proportion little pieces. Because, for instance, this brought that in slightly. So when you're done, then I would worry about line thickness. And so keep in mind that nothing is in D1, 2, and 3. Nothing's in there. We have a little piece of the shirt in D4. Do the contour outline first, then do shoulders and neck, ear, then do eyes, nose, and then mouth. And so, yes, we're looking for full detail. Even though this is a simple drawing, there's lots of little stuff that we're looking for alignment to the grid and proportion. All right, good luck.